All right. Hello, friends, and welcome to The Divine Speaker. A couple months ago, I played the demo of this game. I bought the full game, and we are ready to start playing it. If you didn't watch me play the demo, you don't know what this is. The Divine Speaker is a fantasy visual novel about our main character, Raen, who lives in the only village to ever exist in the world. But unfortunately for him, he ends up kind of getting tricked, exiled from the village, and finds out that there are more places outside the village than just where he's from? Say it ain't so. There are a few notes that I want to say before we begin this playthrough. 1. The game is fully voice acted. The only thing that isn't voiced in this game is the narration, but all the characters are voice acted, and so I'm going to be doing the reading of the narration, but everything else is just in game. Unfortunately, one of the characters, Fawn, who is the very first one that you're going to meet after Raen, he has a very, very quiet voice. And so, at the very least, for this first episode, we are going to be playing without background music, without sound effects, just so that as I am editing, I can boost his volume and we can actually hear him without accidentally boosting the music, and then you can't hear anything but the music in the background, you know? Secondly, this game is 18 plus. It does include some scenes that I cannot show on YouTube. When those scenes pop up, I'm going to be doing a fade to black. There is one that I know of that has plot relevance, importance, and so once we get past that, I'm going to give you a brief description of what happened, but unfortunately I cannot show you those scenes, so we'll be skipping past them, pretending that they didn't happen. In a fun note, though, I just found out that all of my saves from when I played the demo are still here. And I think that's so fun. We're not going to be playing any of them. We are going to start this playthrough from the very beginning so you guys can see from the beginning what the story is. But I'm excited to hop into it. I really like the people who made this game. They also made A Date with Death, and I really enjoyed that game, so I just want to play more from them, but that's enough speaking from me. Let's hop into it. Let's start. Okay.
The birth of a child heralds many things: change, adaptation, confusion, but most importantly, the judgment.
I needed to press continue. Okay.
A newly born child's first destination isn't its mother's arms, but the embrace of another. The divine speaker, the person tasked with determining a child's destiny from the day they are born till the day they die. This destiny is determined by lottery. The speaker's hand, guided by the forces above, always chooses the correct fate for the correct child. This judgment guides them on the path to eventually becoming the person they were always destined to be.
Raen, could we pretty please go play outside?
We promise to be back before it gets dark.
I quickly glanced over in the matron's direction, and she gave me a short nod. I didn't really have the authority to tell them what they could do, but that never stopped them coming to ask me. Oh well, I don't mind. They knew I could never say no to them.
All right, but make sure to be back before sundown. And don't go anywhere close to the forest, okay?
Yay! Thank you, Raen! We promise we won't!
But why aren't we allowed to ever play there? Can we go when we're adults?
No, you can't.
But why? It's not fair!
I let out a sigh, but felt a small smile rising to my face. I couldn't help chuckling at their curiosity. They would ask the same question every time they wanted to go out and play.
Come over here and I'll explain it to you.
I walked over to the table at the far end of the hall. The top was littered with paper, children's books, and pencils. Buried among them was a map.
Look closely at this map while I explain. Our home, Aurelia Cavella, is surrounded on all sides by the forest. The forest is full of bad guys and dangerous animals. Do you know why?
Because the divine beings don't protect the outside land.
That's right. The beings above protect us while we are inside Aurelia Cavella. But that protection doesn't extend outside of our land. No one can survive out there. That's why everyone lives here, where we can be safe and happy. I know it might seem unfair now, but you'll understand when you're older that we're just trying to protect you. There's just nothing out there to find. The forest goes on infinitely, with us right at the center.
Everyone in the entire world lives here?
I guess some people might find it annoying to answer the same questions every day. Not me, though. They're curious, and I can't blame them. When I was their age, I asked exactly the same questions to the older kids.
That's right. That's the way it's always been.
But what's this place over there? Zuras?
She pointed to a place to the north of the city with the name Azeros written underneath it on the map. I'm pretty sure that's how it's pronounced.
Ah, Azeros? I don't really know much about it, but once you get old, and not old like me, I mean ancient, the divine beings in the speaker reward you for your lifetime of serving them. All the elders go to live there alone in peace and relaxation.
Totally, 100% that's what happens.
I hear it's pretty luxurious, but I've never been there. You can only go when you're called upon.
The kids looked up at me, obviously interested in hearing more. There just wasn't much more to say. No one really knew what it was like in there. The speaker tells us about the luxuries of Azeros, and it makes us all work all the more harder to one day get in there. That's all we know about it.
Now go out and play before the sun starts setting.
They both scurried off out of the door, jumping, running, and screaming the whole way. They really are cute. I'm so happy to have such a great family here. Tobias, Mia, all the others. They're like my brothers and sisters. Well, technically, I don't have a real family, but they've always been more than enough. I was dumped on the side of the road as a baby and ended up here. I never knew my parents, so it's hard to be angry about it when growing up here has been so good.
Raen, may I speak with you for a moment?
I looked up towards that voice I knew so well, the matron of my orphanage. A tough woman, but caring beyond belief. She's looked after me my entire life, along with dozens of other children.
Of course, ma'am. What do you need? I hope it was okay to let the children out to play for the day.
No, it's nothing about that. I'd just like to have a chat. You've been with us for a long time already. I found you in the gutters about 18 years ago today.
Has it really been that long already? It's true that I should be coming of age about now, so she probably thinks it's about time for me to be moving on.
Yes, it has been a long time. If you give me a few days, I'll say goodbye to the children and start packing up.
What? I think you misunderstand.
She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small envelope.
This is for you. Happy birthday. Go and get yourself something nice.
She smiled at me, so full of warmth, but it quickly changed into a scowl.
Also, don't think you're getting out of here anytime soon. I'd go out of my mind answering those questions every day.
She pushed the envelope into my hands and walked away. As brusque, I don't know how to pronounce that word, as ever.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I'll head out and pick up the groceries you asked me to get earlier then. Be back soon.
The old, heavy door groaned as I pushed against it. I stepped outside, breathing in the fresh air and enjoying the sunlight. The sun was high up in the sky, and a nice breeze soared through the city. It was a beautiful day. But I couldn't help but notice that the flowers that were in full bloom yesterday were already wilting. Maybe no one watered them this morning.
Anyway,
I guess that must mean today's my birthday. It's not like I didn't realize it was coming up sometime soon, but it wasn't really at the front of my mind. It's never been a big deal to me. I looked closely at the envelope in my hands. White and simple. This is the first time I've been given a birthday present. I'm scared to open it. I almost want to leave it sealed. It's kind of scary being given something out of nowhere. Curiosity was beginning to get the better of me, though. It's always been a problem of mine.
okay. 3, 2, 1, go!
I tore the seal open in one fell swoop.
Oh my. By the gods.
Inside was 10 marks, which was more money than I'd had in my entire life, and a letter addressed to me.
Let's see. Dear Raen.
Dear Raen, happy birthday, my dear. I'm sorry we couldn't afford much to give you, but I hope it's enough for you to get something you like. The kids have been saving up just for you. From the day I found you, I've always thought of you as a son. Now that you're of age, it won't be long until you will be matched up yourself and have your own children. Until that day, please stay with us at the orphanage. Both the children and I would be lost without you. I'm sure if your parents saw you now, they would be proud of you, just like I am. Yours, Matron Arala.
I couldn't stop myself. My eyes welled up instantly and overflowed all over the letter. By the way, when words are like this, you can click on them and it will show you like this whole thing about the lore, and you could read the letter again if you wanted to, but you know, you could read a whole bunch about the lore, the people, stuff like that. I'm not going to open this often in this game, but just so you know, it's here. We could read about Aurelia Cavella, for example. But anyway.
Thank you.
They saved all this just for me. I can't let them down. I'll go buy something amazing to share with them. With determination, I started on my way to the marketplace, envelope and money buried in my clothing. I love how Raen is such like a good person that he gets this money for his birthday and he immediately goes, okay, I'm going to use it to buy something for the others at the orphanage. He's such a good bean. The markets were just past the town square on the west side of Aurelia Cavella. The town square was where new children came for their judgments and where the speaker made his proclamations.
The beings above sing praise for the contributions you have given to our humble home. Likewise, they implore you to continue giving your lives over to them, for they provide you with protection from the evils lurking inside the forest.
Huh. Looks like the divine speaker is declaring something right now.
He was dressed head to toe in white and gold, the definition of elegance in his ceremonial gowns. His long, silvery white hair reached down his back neatly.
I understand your frustrations about our failed crops, but do not worry yourselves, for the beings above have a reason for everything. Soon you will see why they have put you through these trials.
Yes, Lord Speaker! I guess the crowd doesn't get a voice. The failed crops? Huh. I think I heard a little about the situation from the matron. It seemed this was the first time in hundreds of years that they had failed this badly, and there's some worry about whether we'll have enough or not this winter.
Yes, Lord Speaker.
Before I knew it, I was already in the crowd, chanting along with the other residents. The eloquent and beautiful way he spoke was almost hypnotizing. The most highly respected person in all of Aurelia Cavella, second only to the gods. Just being in his presence was amazing. The whole time he spoke, the crowd stood mesmerized. I was so immersed I didn't even notice he was already nearly finished.
In due time, all of you shall be rewarded with the freedom that Azeros brings. With this in mind, I hope you will continue your offerings and duties. Thank you.
Applause exploded out from the crowd as he finished his speech. Smiling, he waved and cast his eyes around the crowd. I waved and cheered along with the crowd before his eyes met mine. Almost instantly, a shock ran through my body. The shock changed to heat, and the heat changed to burning. Before I knew it, I crumpled to the ground, gasping for air. But it felt like my lungs were on fire. Every breath burnt my insides even more. Everyone around was watching me, but worst of all were his eyes, the speaker's. I could still feel his eyes boring into me, as if he could see everything, even secrets you kept in the deepest parts of your soul. I have to escape them now. I forced myself back to my feet, ran as fast as I could, and ducked into a nearby alleyway. I could feel the world around me getting darker, blurrier. I fell to the ground in a fetal position, sobbing. Abruptly, the pain started to move. It concentrated itself into my left arm, with the force of all my previous pain put together.
Anyone, please.
I shuddered, clutching my arm and enduring the scalding pain before my vision went black.
You must protect, awaken, destiny, judgment.
I blinked a few times, trying to work out where I was. The darkness that surrounded my vision wore off slowly as I sat up.
That's right. I was in the town square, listening to the speaker, and then...
Wait, did I collapse here? I quickly checked over my body. The pain was completely gone.
Huh? What? What is this?
When I looked closer, I noticed something that hadn't been there before. Some kind of strange markings were running down my arm. It's not a language I'd ever seen before. My first instinct was to try and scratch them off, but it was like it was branded onto my skin. It wasn't going anywhere.
I have to get back to the orphanage. They won't know where I am.
When I left, the sun was still high in the sky, but now it's already night. How long have I been out? I stood up slowly, holding onto the wall for balance.
Ugh.
The burning sensation was gone, and all that I was left with was a sore body. Must be from collapsing onto the ground.
Where am I? I guess I'll head back the way I came.
Through the thick darkness, I followed the alleyway back the way I came, desperate for all of this to be a dream. After a little searching, I somehow found my way back to the town square. A few people buzzed about, doing last-minute shopping or chatting with each other. I clutched my branded arm close to my chest, making sure to keep it out of view. I don't know what they'd do if they saw it. I don't even know what it is. I couldn't help glancing around nervously, like some kind of thief worried about getting busted. That's why I didn't notice when I ran headlong into someone and got knocked off my feet.
Ouch!
I looked up at the person standing over me. He was a tall, lean man, probably in his 20s, with dark red hair that reached down his back and a serious look on his face.
I'm so sorry.
He stood there for a moment, just watching me. His gaze made me nervous. It was like a snake sizing up its prey. That's when I noticed it wasn't me he was staring at, but my arm. I instinctively clutched my arm to my chest.
Is this where you usually spend your time bumping into people, or do you have a few favorite spots?
I like him a lot. I like him a lot, okay?
What? No. I don't usually bump.
Ah, I guess this is a privilege then. I feel lucky.
My mouth just kind of hung open. What's this guy's problem? I don't think I've ever met someone so rude.
I'm very sorry for running into you. I was just trying to get home quickly, too.
To hide whatever that is on your arm?
Again, all I could do was look at him in shock. We stared at each other for a moment before he held out his hand to me.
Let me help you up. If you stay down there long enough, people will start to think you're part of the scenery.
I forgot that this was a choice. I will take his hand. I hesitated for a split second before grabbing his hand gently. He pulled me up to my feet, and I could finally see just how tall he was.
Thank you.
Just try not to make a habit of looking so sketchy. Who knows what kind of people you'll attract?
Yeah, who knows? The smirk on his face when he said that was unnerving. I think I should get out of here quick.
Of course. I should really be heading off now. I'm late. Again, I'm very sorry for the commotion I caused.
I quickly turned to leave. This guy is the last person I want to be wasting my time on.
Wait a second. I know something about the markings on your arm.
I whirled around to face him again, faster than I've ever moved before.
You do?
Whoops.
I mean, you do? What do you know about it?
I know the speaker keeps tomes written with the same markings in his personal archive. He's actually allowing visitors, but tonight only. Too bad you seem so busy. This might be the last time it's ever open to the public. Anyway, good night.
The red-haired man turned around and slipped off into the shadows. I was left with his words just hanging in the air.
I guess one more slight detour wouldn't hurt. I'm already late as it is.
I bit my lip, thinking hard on his words. There's no way I can miss this chance. If it's the only way to find out what these markings mean, then... Determined, I turned towards the direction of the speaker's archives. It took a while to walk across town to the speaker's palace. It was large, but mostly empty, seeing as he was the only resident. This is the first time I've ever heard of anyone being allowed into his personal archives, though. I think even the Lord has restricted access. Maybe this is my lucky day after all? I walked up to the door and knocked lightly.
Hello? Speaker? Are you home?
When I knocked, the door swung open. It was already unlocked, and I could see light from inside.
I guess he's probably already in there, showing the archives to other people. Excuse me.
I opened the door further and followed a corridor down to another door that was slightly ajar. When I entered the room, I almost toppled over in astonishment. Thankfully, I didn't, since it would have been the third time I fell over in a single day. Bookshelves lined the walls, going up to the ceiling. Tomes and documents littered every surface, and the hazy light the candles flickered all over only furthered my amazement. It was beautiful. Never in my life had I seen this many books. I walked in further, feeling the spines with my fingers and smelling the musty scent of the room. Various books littered the tabletop in the center of the room. I walked closer to them. I read some of the titles: A Brief History, Sid Cahem, Bloodlines. There were thousands of books here I would love to read. It's too bad he's only allowing visitors for a single day. I picked up the first book, A Brief History. I flicked through it slowly, reading a few sentences off of each page. It looked like some pages were missing. It would jump from talking about the palace being built to the animals that inhabit our land.
Let's see. Foundation? The kingdom of Aurelia Cavella was founded by Prince Shion on the second eve of Augustus.
Interesting. I've never heard of who first founded our kingdom. This book must really be old if it's talking about that. I put the first book back in its place and moved on to Sid Cahem. It was different to the other books, a journal. When I opened it, I found that every page was covered in black ink, making it unreadable. It looked like someone had a bit of an accident with this one in an inkwell, or was it purposeful? Bloodlines was next. I picked it up from the pile. I opened it to the middle. The name should have given me a clue, honestly. It was some kind of record of births for what looked like a high-class bloodline. On this page, the bloodline started with King Shion of Sid Cahem in the year 10-something. It moved down to more recent times. It ended with Prince Caspian.
I keep reading about this Sid Cahem. I wonder what it means. Wait a second.
Prince Shion was the founder of our city, right? That must mean that this is the royal bloodline, but why does it only start 500 years ago? Aurelia Cavella has always been here for thousands of years. There must be a mistake here, surely. People had to live somewhere before then, and everyone knows there isn't anywhere inhabitable outside of our protected lands. There's only here, in the forest. I flicked the page over to the next one. The page was filled in strange markings, in a script I'd never read before. I hurriedly pulled up my sleeve to compare them, and found some matching characters. The layout was similar to that of the royal bloodlines, so it must also be a list of names. But who?
It looks like the last person added to this list was 19 years ago.
So absorbed in trying to work out what that meant, I didn't hear the sound of someone opening the door behind me.
Well, well, well. An intruder in my archives?
I whipped around to face the voice. It was none other than the speaker himself. I'd never seen him up so close. I hid the book instinctively inside of my cloak.
Speaker!
I dropped to one knee in front of him, out of respect.
Thank you so much for having the archives open today. I've never seen so many books.
Excuse me? Having the archives open?
He looked at me with visible confusion on his face.
That's right. The man in the town square. He told me.
Wait, what? I definitely heard him right. He said it was open to everyone. Then, why does the speaker look like he knows nothing about it?
I'm not sure who told you what, but my archives are off limits to all but myself.
Behind him, I could see guards appearing from every direction.
Trespassing in a restricted zone is an act of treachery. The only punishment fit for someone betraying their own home is death.
I could feel my stomach drop when he said that. Death. Death? I've never even heard of anyone sentenced to death. No, this is all wrong.
No, wait! Please! I'm not betraying! I just wanted to read...
I don't know what your intentions were coming here, but I must act in the best interest of both our residents and the gods. Guards, take him.
Now wait there just a minute, Speaker.
I could see someone pushing through all the guards, making their way to the front of the crowd. It was our lord, who works with the Speaker to uphold our lands.
We're not equipped to suddenly have a public execution, Sir Speaker. We haven't needed one in years. In this case, I think it would be best to exile him. Being out there in the forest is a death sentence anyway.
My heart dropped even further. I thought he had come to my rescue, but what he was suggesting was worse than death. No one in my lifetime had ever been exiled. The things you would endure out there would be much nastier than the quick hanging you would get here.
Please, I didn't mean...
Silence.
He stood in front of me, his icy eyes digging into my soul. I couldn't help but think about earlier in the town square when our eyes met. I flinched away from his gaze.
Perhaps you're right. Why dirty our own land with the blood of a criminal when we can let nature take care of it for us? Guards, take his arms. I'll escort him to the forest's edge.
Both my arms were seized by the burly guards. There was no hope of escaping. All I could do was follow behind the Speaker, being pushed from behind the entire way. I hung my head in shame as I was paraded through the town. I could see faces peering at me from windows everywhere I went. All I could do was look down at the ground. Who could blame them? I would watch too.
Release him. You may go. I will handle this from here.
The two guards saluted before marching off back into town. Once we couldn't see their backs anymore, he spoke.
I don't know why you would do what you did. Nevertheless, you must now live with the consequences. This might seem unfair. It would be best for you to learn just how unfair this world can be, though.
I looked up into his face. I couldn't tell what he was thinking at all, but I was mesmerized. He reached out and lightly caressed my chin with his fingertips. Up close, his long eyelashes trembled in the wind, and he looked almost ethereal, like he himself was one of the beings above.
You look just like your father did.
That's weird, Speaker. At that, he released my face and turned to leave.
Run. Run and don't look back. Just like he did.
His back slowly disappeared into town. I thought about going back the same way, hiding at the orphanage, but everyone just saw me being marched through town like that. There was no other choice. I had to leave with only the clothes on my back, the envelope from the matron, the book I had stolen accidentally from the Speaker, and my regret. Oh, I got an achievement. Cool. I ran. I ran like I'd never ran before. It felt like my heart would burst out of my chest at any second, and my lungs burnt with every breath. Muscles I didn't even know I had ached. Even when I thought I couldn't go any further, I kept running. When I finally collapsed, all I could see was trees and darkness in all directions. I was completely lost. Damn, boy, how long are you gonna huff for? I lay down on my back and caught my breath. What can I do now? I've lost everything. No home to return to, no family. What will everyone at the orphanage think when they find out? Will they be disappointed? Angry? Will they think I've abandoned them? Betrayed them? A million thoughts ran through my head all at once. I took a deep breath of the fresh forest air and calmed my thoughts. It was only then when I realized the situation I was in. Here I was, sprawled out on the forest floor, alone, at night. I suddenly picked up on all the things I hadn't noticed before. A scratching sound, bushes rustling, a howling from somewhere far in the distance. The wind picked up and whipped my hair around my face, only adding to the sudden terror that had struck my heart. All the stories I'd been told since childhood about venturing outside of Aurelia Cavella hit me. In fact, I hadn't only heard of them, I'd repeated the same ones to the children time and time again. Nobody left the confines of Aurelia Cavella. The forest was a dangerous place that spread to the far corners of the planet, and only by the protection from the beings above have we lived in peace for so long. I strained my eyes, trying to look into the darkness that surrounded me. Finally, I dragged myself up from the forest floor. I pulled my coat tighter around myself for security and nervously checked that I still had all the belongings before returning back the way I came. Maybe if I stay close to the city lights, it'll scare away any danger.
It was this way, right? Or this way?
No matter which direction I turned to face, the trees looked the same, and from every angle I could hear strange noises.
Oh, come on. Which way? Which way?
I whipped my head from left to right before dropping my head into my hands. I unconsciously let out a sigh.
It's hopeless.
Once again, I was surrounded by the sounds of the forest and the feeling of the unknown. Who knew it would be this scary? An eerie feeling gripped my heart. I could feel eyes on me.
No, I must be imagining it.
Suddenly, it was quiet. All I could hear was my own heartbeat, quickening by the second. I had to get out of there. With no sense of direction, I just ran until I couldn't run anymore. That one was a lot quicker. No matter where I went, everything looked the same. The trees started to blend together in my eyes, becoming one entity. I collapsed onto the ground and crawled backwards until my body hit a tree. Just the feeling of having something behind me made me feel more secure. I buried myself into its huge roots. I could barely make out my hand in front of my face in the pitch-black darkness. The night was freezing. I brought my knees up to my chest, hugging in tight to try and get some warmth. I felt the letter that I had hidden in my clothes.
I'm sorry.
With the letter clutched close to my heart, I shut my eyes to try and escape from the dangers of reality.
Destined child, false prophecy, speak, awaken.
I don't know what any of those mean, just by the way. I know things about this game from playing the demo. Still not 100% sure what the voices are about. I awoke with a start.
What was with that dream? I feel like that's not the first time either.
Everything felt kind of hazy, and I could barely recall what it was about. I uncurled my body from the forest floor and started to take notice of my surroundings. Rays of bright light shone between tree branches, bringing a slight warmth to my face. It felt nice after the cold wind from last night. The air felt crisp which must be a sign it's still early.
What?
When I finally started looking around me, I noticed something strange. I was surrounded by beautiful flowers, kinds I'd never seen before.
When did these get here?
Last night was just so dark. Were they here before? They could have been, but isn't it a little strange for them to be around me in a circle? I let out a sigh.
What's with all of these strange things happening to me?
The weird pain I had in the town square just yesterday, the dreams that I can only half remember, not to mention the markings on my arm. I raised my arm up to the sky, inspecting it closely in the sunlight. I traced the symbols gently with my fingertips.
It's definitely the same symbols from the book I brought with me. What is it trying to tell me?
I absentmindedly played with the flowers that surrounded me while recalling the events of yesterday.
I need to find someone that can read these markings. But there's no way I'll be able to sneak back into Aurelia Cavella.
I pulled the book out and flicked through some of the other pages. Most of them were readable, but relatively unimportant. Charts, lists, budgets. These 2 pages, the royal bloodline, and the one that matched my markings, written in an unknown language. I looked back at the family tree. Everyone knows the monarchy unexpectedly ended around 20 years ago, but the reasons why weren't widely known or disclosed. I checked over the names again. King Shion of Sidcaeum. What is this Sidcaeum? Why does the bloodline only start 500 years ago? And then Prince Caspian, the final name, 37 years ago. Under it, a signature, barely legible. Lucius.
He could still be alive. He might be able to tell me what this marking means. If only I knew where he was.
I suddenly realized just how hungry I was. I guess the last time I ate any food was yesterday. I tried to swallow, but my throat felt all dry and scratchy. I'm seriously thirsty. I searched my pockets, but I didn't have anything to eat with me. Finally, I got up and stretched my shoulders out. I'd give anything to sleep on a bed instead of the ground again. First task today, find water.
Easier said than done, of course.
I glanced at the trees around me, but I had no clue which way I came from last night. I'll just have to pick a direction and hope for the best. I brushed the dirt off of my clothes and started my hike to find water. By now, the sun was out high above, shining brightly. It warmed my chilled body and calmed my mind. Compared to last night, the forest wasn't even half as terrifying. Sunlight filtered through the green leaves above, leaving interesting patterns all over the ground. Moss grew over the moist tree trunks and roots, making everything look fuzzy and warm. I could hear the faint tweeting of birds up in the canopy. Instead of scary, it was actually kind of beautiful. The only sound I could hear was my own breathing and twigs breaking under my boots. It was peaceful, even serene, when the sun was up. Without noticing, I was slowing my pace, taking in the scenery and enjoying the atmosphere. Everything that happened last night felt like a dream. Wildflowers littered the ground where I was walking, so I tried to avoid stepping on them. I leant down and picked one to bring with me. I kept walking at my own pace like this for a while, before I was hit with a foul stench that quickly overpowered the fresh smell of the flower in my hand. It was kind of like off meat, mixed with something sickeningly sweet. I kept walking, and it kept getting stronger.
What is that?
In the distance, I could see some kind of cloth jutting out from under the bush. The closer I got, the more overpowering the smell was. It looked like some kind of knapsack. Could there be food in there? Water? Something I could use out here. I tried to pull it out from under the bushes, but it must have been stuck in the branches. I grabbed on with both of my hands and gave it one big pull.
Whoa!
It came out easily when I used all my weight, but I pulled so hard I fell backwards onto my butt. The smell was suddenly so sickening that I couldn't help but gag. When I looked down at my lap, the knapsack sat between my legs, and I could feel something wet touching my leg. I reached down to grab it. Whatever it was stone cold and slightly damp. What is that? I held my breath, but the stench completely overwhelmed my senses.
3, 2, 1.
Slowly, I wrapped my hand around it, and with a final surge of courage, pulled it into view. No. I could feel all the blood instantly drain from my face. I threw it as far as I could, but I could still see it poking out from the bushes. I scrambled away as fast as possible, trying to put some distance between myself and that thing.
No.
This doesn't happen. I turned away quickly, and my stomach lurched. The bag wasn't stuck in the bushes. It was stuck in someone's arms, and I just pulled one right off. I brought my hand to my chest, the feeling of my heartbeat on my palm, the only thing making this feel real. Gross, Raen. I gagged again, this time much more violently than before. It was just lucky my stomach was still empty. There's no way. This couldn't be happening to me. Just yesterday I was living a normal life, safe and happy. How did it come to this? I glanced back in the direction I threw it. It hadn't moved. I sure hope not. An arm. A decomposing human arm. Who would be out here? I can't think of anyone wanting to leave Aurelia Cavella. No one leaves. I've never even heard of anyone else being expelled. Then, have others also been outcast like I was? How long had the body been there? Another wave of nausea washed over me. I could feel the moisture on my hands. The slimy mucus left a brown sludge all over my palms. I rubbed my hands on the ground until they were red raw, but the stains weren't going anywhere. Why won't it come off?
Get off! Please, get off!
I scrubbed and scrubbed, and even though you couldn't see it anymore, I could still feel it. It felt disgusting. The pangs of hunger I felt only a minute ago were completely gone. Thank the gods I hadn't found anything to eat yet. I would have instantly lost it. I couldn't move. There had to be a reason it was out here so far from Aurelia Cavella. But why? Who? No, what could have done this to them? I glanced back towards the bushes from behind my bangs. If there were arms, what about the rest of them? I don't want to find out.
I have to get out of here!
I leapt back to my feet, spun around, and sped away, giving no notice to the knapsack I left on the grass.
How long have I been running?
I could still feel it. When I looked down at my hands, there was nothing, but I could still feel it. No matter where I looked, I felt like it was still there, almost watching me. The sound it made when I ripped the bag from the bushes, it echoed in my mind.
Wait, what's that?
Is that water? I could definitely hear a faint trickling nearby. I quickened my pace and burst out from the trees in a flurry of leaves. Water.
Water!
I was met with a river. On both sides, the banks were littered with a colorful array of trash, clothing, and various odds and ends. I barely noticed, though. All that mattered is that I could get clean and drink. Without any thought, I kicked off my clothes and stripped down to my underwear as I ran towards the water's edge. I launched myself from the bank directly into the river. Who cares about wet underwear? The shallow water came up to my waist. It was cool and refreshing against my sweaty skin. Finally, water. I kept scrubbing at my arms, hands, and legs until they were red raw. Felt like I was rubbing away the memories from earlier. Once I was satisfied with that, I moved on to my hair. The sweat and grease from yesterday was already building up.
That feels better already.
My head instantly whipped up towards the opposite bank. He's been there for a while. Like, he's solidly been watching you for a hot second, but... On the opposite bank stood a young, blue-haired boy. I still think that's white, by the way. That's not blue hair, but... Continue. With a completely dumbfounded look on his face. His arms were full of a multitude of items. Before I could open my mouth, he turned and ran.
Wait!
I bolted back for my clothes and took off in the same direction I last saw the boy. As I ran, I could still hear the distinct sounds of leaves and sticks crunching in front of me. At least that means he's not far. The ground here looked like it had been used all the time. It formed what could almost be called a path. He must come this way a lot. Between the trees, I caught a brief glimpse of his blue locks. Soon, more of his figure came into view as I gained on him.
Hey, wait, please!
He obviously wasn't going to wait. He was close enough now that I could almost touch him. I reached out to grab him, but only managed to brush my fingertips against his back. This might be my only chance. I can't risk him getting away. With all the last of my energy, I leapt towards him. Sure enough.
Got you! I said wait!
I tackled the boy to the ground and held him there, my arms on either side of his head, my lungs burnt from the chase. The boy below me looked terrified. His body was shaking underneath mine.
I'm not going to hurt you. I just want to talk.
He suddenly turned bright red. He wasn't looking at my face, though. When I followed his gaze, he was looking somewhere lower. Then I realized I hadn't gotten dressed yet.
I didn't. I mean...
I could finally see the boy up close. His pale blue hair was feathered around him, and his silvery eyes were white and scared. When his lips trembled, he looked like he could cry at any moment. He seemed fragile, breakable. His face was slowly getting wetter the longer I leaned my soggy hair over him.
I'm so sorry.
Are you hungry?
He's actually pretty good volume-wise, I think, right now, but we'll see. Let him talk a little bit more.
Yeah.
I quickly got off of him and picked my clothes up, cradling them to my chest.
I'm going to put my clothes back on, so don't go anywhere, please.
The other boy got up slowly, keeping his eyes on the ground and nodding his head slightly. I turned around and slid my clothes back on as fast as I could. I fumbled a little while tying my shoes up. I half expected the blue-haired boy to be gone when I turned around, but he wasn't.
I'm done now. Listen, I'm sorry for jumping on you like that. I'm not trying to hurt you, but you're the only person I've seen alive out here. My name's Raen.
I reached my hand out towards him. He looked down at my open palm and hesitated, but eventually took my hand and shook it.
Fawn.
Fawn?
My name.
Oh, Fawn. It's nice to meet you.
The items that previously were held tightly in his arms were scattered all over the ground, thrown up in the air when I tackled him. I will be nice and help him pick them up. I thought this was a deer for a hot second, maybe because we're talking about fawn and I just got the achievement for deer, but this over here looked like a deer. I was like, what are you doing here? I instantly bent down to help him pick up his things. There were clothes in a rainbow of colors, strange ornaments, glasses without lenses, and an array of random junk. When I handed them back to him, he smiled at me with his tinted red face.
Oh, thank you.
So, what are all of these things?
These? They're from my personal collection.
His eyes suddenly lit up.
Do you want to see? Oh, I mean, I have food and water back at my house that I could share with you.
Really? Are you sure?
My hunger and thirst from earlier had returned with a vengeance. I'm starving.
Yeah, there's enough for both of us.
With his arms full of items to add to his collection, he turned around and started walking. I guess he wanted me to follow after him? I jogged up to walk beside him.
So, Fawn, you live here in the forest? By yourself?
Oh, yeah, not far from here. Not by myself, though. I live with a bunch of my friends.
Really? You all live out here together? For how long?
He stopped for a couple of seconds before speaking again. He seemed pretty deep in thought.
A while now.
Helpful.
Why did you leave Aurelia Cavella when the divine beings don't protect the outside land?
What?
The speaker says it's too dangerous to even enter the forest, let alone live here. How did you get here?
A speaker? Aurelia Cavella? Are you talking about the town to the west of here? Across the river?
Fawn frowned at me a little, obviously confused by what I was saying.
You don't know the speaker?
I've never been there before, so...
Wait, so you were born out here?
No, I came here as a child.
What is up with this guy? Maybe he's delusional from being out here for so long.
Alright, sure.
I just let it go. It was obvious Fawn didn't know exactly what he was talking about. Okay, and we are getting close to an hour, so I think that I'm going to end this episode here, just outside of Fawn's house, but I'm actually fairly surprised by how loud Fawn is speaking. As I said, I took out the background sounds because I was going to have to boost his audio, but it seems like somewhere in between the demo of this game and the full release, they've got the audio a little bit more better, so that's really nice. Next episode we might even add the background music and all that, but like I said, I'm going to end this episode here. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it. I am interested in seeing the rest of the story that I don't know. I've heard a lot of really good things about this game, a lot of people who really enjoy it, and that made me want to pick it up. And I hope that you are also interested in seeing just what the hell is going on, why Raen thinks that Aurelia Cavella is the only town in existence when obviously there are people who are living and breathing outside of the town. But that's going to be it for this episode. Thank you for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you next time for the next bits of the Divine Speaker.